So I'm doing some internet the other day. I'm on twitter.com, where I am very frequently, twitter.com/NandoVMovies if you want to follow me. And I see a tweet from a YouTube friend of mine named Mauricio. He has a channel called Brown Table on YouTube. Just check that out. He's got an anime he's working on. And this is a tweet that kind of spurned a thought that I had. And the tweet is this: I just realized Ross is appearing not in Thunderbolts, but Captain America 4. Yeah, this is going to be a Hulk plotline with Captain America as the lead. Weird decision, but I'll go with it for now. And this is a lot of the, I'm sure this thought came into his head because of the news that Harrison Ford, the internet's, I don't know about favorite actor. I think we like him, right? We like Harrison Ford. He's fun. He's very funny. I do love, and I tweeted about this too, I really enjoy that he'll say like, yeah, I did the movie because I wanted to get money. I don't know who any of these guys are. Like, that's fun. Like, I'm excited for his press tour because the other ones are always like, oh yeah, I'm just a huge fan of the comics. I loved reading about Vorp. Like, it was when I was a kid. I was like, oh, that's so cool. And it's like, no, you didn't. And it's fine. You don't have to. You don't have to be an expert in every single thing. I think it's endearing when someone, like, I think it was Tatiana Maslany in an interview, and this is kind of recently too, was asked like some Marvel trivia. One of the questions was, who picks up Thor's hammer in Endgame? And she didn't know. Which is funny because it's like, man, you gotta watch none of it to miss that. And like, it's not, it's a little small detail. A little fun fact, if you missed it, in Avengers Endgame, Captain America picks up Thor's hammer. So it's fun. But obviously, Harrison Ford, good actor. I think he's gonna be a good pick to replace William Hurt, who was fine, but I don't think was like, breaking any new ground with that performance. I had suggested Captain Pike from Star Trek, Bruce Greenwood, and I think that would have worked. I think Sam Elliott would have worked. Like, there's just so many old guys that kind of do that. But I do think that Harrison Ford is going to be fun. Just he's a good actor, and he's going to bring something interesting to that role. So Mauricio's tweet about what's going on with this Hulk Captain America thing got me thinking, and it brought a question into my mind that I have not thought about before, and like a thought that I wanted to share with you guys. Which is, since we know that he is in Captain America 4 and Thunderbolts, he's going to be played by Harrison Ford, a huge get that's going to get lots of attention, especially after Indiana Jones comes out, very, very soon before, I believe, Captain 4. So, like, everybody will be thinking about him. Is General Ross one of the most interesting characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now? Like, as everything stands, is he like the new Baron Zemo? And I don't mean that in terms of like, is he going to be cool because he's probably going to be Red Hulk, right? Like, and first of all, I can't wait to see what that CGI looks like. I'm thrilled for that. And I don't think he's going to put on the ping pong ball suit, but geez, that would be fun to watch too. Because I just assumed when William Hurt died, that was it for the character. And it seemed like Val would be doing all of the things he would do, right? Val was the one recruiting Captain America 2, the bad one, whatever his name is, John Walker, Yelena, like, she's going to assemble the Thunderbolts, and maybe they'd be named after Thunderbolt Ross in his honor or something like that. But now we know that she's going to be doing this, I guess, in tandem with him, or at least that character is sticking around and going to get recast. So I decided to kind of take stock of that character, of General Ross. What's he been doing? What's he doing now? And how does that relate to the other characters in these movies? And I think it's actually pretty interesting. So where have we seen him? We've seen him, I think, 4 times. First time is in Incredible Hulk, a movie that barely counts, where he is the general that is after the Hulk. We learn was responsible for experiments that turned Bruce Banner into the Hulk. And it's not the traditional gamma bomb exploded and like gave him superpowers explanation. It's a little bit more complicated. In fact, it's funny because in She-Hulk, they just pointed out that the stealing the Hulk's blood plot, trying to make another Hulk, is very similar to the idea of stealing the super soldier serum, trying to make another super soldier. And that's been done so many times in the Marvel Cinematic Universe on and off screen, because the idea of making new super soldiers, if we're counting Luke Cage as Marvel Cinematic Universe and now Man-Thing, we have a couple of the other, because the Weapon Plus program, Steve Rogers, I believe, is Weapon 0 or Weapon 1, I can't remember, but it's always been like, let's do it again. Let's make another Captain America, but a little different. So we got like Isaiah Bradley was one of the part of the Weapon Plus program. Man-Thing, he was a Weapon Plus subject. Luke Cage, another Weapon Plus program. So like a lot of these guys that have been part of the Weapon Plus program are in the MCU now, which means even more than we thought, people have been trying to do super soldier serum again by stealing blood or by, experimenting a lot and turning someone into something like the super soldier. But the Incredible Hulk was also that in these movies. The project that General Ross was supervising was an attempt to recreate the super soldier serum that went horribly wrong. So it's even a plot that is stealing the Hulk's blood. It's not just, derivative of the super soldier. It is the super soldier plot again, but just with one other level below it, which I think is interesting. So we learned that's what General Ross does. Then General Ross, creates the Hulk, and then he becomes obsessed with the Hulk, partially because his daughter wants to help the Hulk, and he thinks the Hulk is too dangerous, and that's kind of always been his deal. He doesn't like these monsters. He hires Blonsky. He gets Blonsky a version of the serum that does not work and turns him into the Abomination with the help of the leader. So, it's not all of him, but it makes him A, more physically dangerous, but then B, it seems to, as far as he said, and based on his behavior that we've seen, make him a little bit more of a loose cannon. So even if you say, well, yeah, but he didn't turn him into the Abomination, Stearns did. It's like, well, he wanted to be turned into the Abomination because of the super soldier serum that he was given by Ross, because Ross wanted his own guy to fight the Hulk. So it's very much what Ross wanted, just not exactly the way he wanted it. And obviously he wanted that guy to win the fight. But so end of Incredible Hulk, he loses. His daughter is ashamed of him, and Hulk is on the loose, and I assume there's consequences, right? They're mad at him. The government's mad at him for doing this, and you stink. And he's like, all right. Flash forward, we don't hear about him for a while. We don't have any more interactions with General Ross in Avengers 1, Avengers 2, none of the other Hulk projects he shows up in. I don't know if he's ever name checked, probably not. But then he shows up in Civil War, and he is now, I believe, Secretary of State or Secretary of Defense. I think it's Secretary of State, though. And he comes in and says, we made up the Sokovia Accords. You guys have been operating without impunity, without any supervision, and we need to do something about that. And then he says, if I lost a nuclear warhead, there'd be consequences. He's all about consequences. He also seems to have created the raft. It doesn't seem like there's any prisoners currently on the raft. If he's not creating it, he supervised it. He has the super max prison for holding super villains. And his views very much align with Zemo's views, Zemo being the main villain of that movie, where he doesn't want superhumans to be alive because they are too dangerous, and he wants them to be more constrained. So they both have personal reasons. His are dumber, much dumber. He's just the guy likes my daughter and I don't like him. It's funny because General Ross does have, in a lot of these conversations, a leg to stand. What he's saying about losing the warhead, not knowing where the Hulk is, that is, something that the Avengers are kind of well, yeah, it is bad that all those people died in those times we fought. But in his heart, a lot of it is just because it's this guy's dating my daughter and I don't like that, So it's kind of fun. It's the overprotective dad taken to the extreme. Anyway, so he manages to capture everybody on the anti-registration side, puts them all on the raft. Then Iron Man, who he has been working with, goes to the raft and communicates with the prisoners behind Ross's back, and he's he tells Matt about that. And then Steve comes in. He's proven right 100%. So again, makes Ross look like a fool and breaks everybody out of the raft. So all of the guys that he captured are free. The next thing he does canonically is try to hunt down Black Widow, which I do think is insane. I assume he's been hunting the rest of these guys down as well. He's been looking for Captain America, and he's been looking for, Bucky and stuff. But specifically, it's Scarlet Witch should be the only one you really care about. Clearly, Black Widow's not that big of a deal. Captain America was right. Captain America is a good guy. She is a good guy. She was on the pro-registration side. She let them get away, but maybe it's just because she didn't want T'Challa to kill Bucky in that moment. She has so many outs, and it's just he's pursuing her, making her life living hell. She runs away, stops whatever the bad guy is. Dreykov? Is that his name? Dreykov? Yeah, stops Dreykov, takes down the Red Room, which is its own little helicarrier. He's there at the end of that, and he's like, all right, well, great. So he is made to look like a fool a third time, although I don't know how much information everybody else has about that. I would assume Captain America breaking out of the raft is a very public disappointment and failure for him, but it doesn't seem like the Black Widow thing got to the public, so it may be that is an isolated incident. But still, we know that he didn't just go, well, I guess I was wrong about the Zemo thing. He went and hunted Black Widow, one of the only members of that team without any superpowers, and really the least responsible, least connected. Next time we see Ross, Infinity War. where he only does one thing during the alien invasion when aliens stole Iron Man and Spider-Man and Doctor Strange and did a whole big giant fight in New York City, and they're all over the place looking for the Infinity Stones. General Ross tells Rhodey to arrest Captain America, which I do think is just so insane. Like, even if you don't think Captain America is gonna save the day, and even if you do think he's a bad guy, like, you got other stuff to do. Rhodey should have other stuff to do. So the idea that you're like, hey, go have a big fight with him, probably, because that's what it's gonna be. He's not gonna just go, all right, well, I guess you got me. It's gonna be a big thing. Then we see him in Endgame very briefly. Don't really know what he's been up to, but he is there at the funeral, which is like real, just, I don't think that guy gets to go to the funeral. He's such a bad guy. We don't see Ross in She-Hulk, but we do hear about him a little bit when Blonsky's talking about the super soldier serum. Now, it's unclear, being all finished with She-Hulk, how much Blonsky was telling the truth, what he was lying about, because we know he lied at least a little bit during She-Hulk. It also does seem like, though, most of the things he said about his experience and about his, you know, like healing and stuff is true. And he basically says that General Ross screwed him over, sold him a story that he was going to be the next Captain America, and then hung him out to dry. So he has made an enemy of not just Hulk, but Abomination as well. And he's still like a crappy guy. So we know he's going to come back for New World Order, which makes sense because the leader is in it. And She-Hulk might be, according to some rumors. And then he'll be back for Thunderbolts, the movie that bears his nickname. And maybe Captain America 4 will be my Thunderbolts pitch. Like the leader wants to get something from Ross. I don't know. That would be fun. Because you could do something like that. Because what has to happen is at the end of that movie, probably, he gets superpowers and turns into the Red Hulk. We know that's going to happen eventually. But so this character has been in 5 things, or at least been mentioned in 5 things. And when you really boil down his actions, it's interesting how few times they actually intersect with the Hulk. Because he is not in, you know, the movies that the Hulk is featured heavily in. He's not in Avengers 1. He is not in Avengers 2. He is not in Thor Ragnarok. And then he's in Infinity War and Endgame a little bit, but like he doesn't really interact with anyone there. And then he's not in She-Hulk. As much as General Ross, technically, is a Hulk villain, he's really more of a Captain America villain. And he seems to just really hate Captain America. And it's interesting because I get the feeling that Captain America would hate him because of what he did to Bruce. And I think the Captain America-Bruce relationship would definitely inform how General Ross feels about Captain America. And General Ross will probably hate Captain America because Captain America is very much on the Hulk side, very positive about the Hulk, helping, and, you know, telling him to smash, telling him he's not a monster, right? Like little things like that do a lot to make Captain America seem like the kind of guy that in a fight would side with Hulk over General Ross, even though General Ross is a general. So like he should, you know, Captain America should acquiesce to him, but he just doesn't. And I think it's interesting when you look at the MCU now, you get 2 sides, right, of Civil War. Pro-registration, anti-registration. Anti-registration, Cap side. Cap, dead. Falcon, still operating. New Captain America, symbol of American liberty and all that stuff. Bucky, operating seemingly inside of the law. Ant-Man, still kicking, just Ant-Man and around for now. And then Wanda, dead for now. But then on the pro-registration side, you got Tony, dead. Natasha, dead. Black Panther, about to be dead. So a lot of what General Ross would probably consider his allies in this fight don't exist anymore. A lot of those heroes have been wiped off the board. These surviving Avengers... Oh, and Hawkeye. Right, I always forget. Everybody forgets. Hawkeye, he was also on the good guy team. He's also alive. So, like, Thor didn't really have strong feelings about General Ross, right? Like, they never interacted, I don't think. But if the Avengers right now, like, if those are the main characters of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which I would imagine they are, it's almost all people he was opposed to. Like, he put Captain America, the current Captain America, in jail. He put Ant-Man in jail. He put Hawkeye in jail. He put Scarlet Witch, who will probably show up again in some form, in jail. He's been hunting the Hulk for all his life. He screwed up Abomination's life. I'm sure She-Hulk hates him because she would hate anybody that hates the Hulk. And I bet Daredevil hates him too because he's probably on Team Hulk right now. And this character who hates superheroes so much, like I would say more than he does in the comics. I haven't read every Hulk comic, and definitely not every comic with him in it, but I would say his focus is usually pretty narrow towards Hulk. And because I'm sure of the, you know, deal that Universal has and how, you know, Marvel has to not make solo Hulk movies, that connection barely exists in Marvel Cinematic Universe. Instead, he's had to transfer that hate onto all of these other characters. So I think it's interesting because you could compare him to a couple of characters. You compare Thunderbolt to Zemo, because like I said, his interests and like his beliefs seem to align with Zemo. These superhumans have too much power. They're bad. They want to have sex with my daughter. I mean, that one's kind of irrelevant, but still, that's a big one that's in his head. But the idea is that he also hates superhumans. But unlike Zemo, he's about to get superpowers, and he is going to turn into the Hulk. Like, I think there's a chance, I don't know if we'll do this, but he could be the villain of World War Hulk. Like, it could be an evil General Ross Red Hulk, because he hates everybody. This guy has no allies. The only guy who I would think is probably on his side, maybe War Machine, although who knows what's going to happen with him after Secret Invasion, but like Walker would probably like him and like would totally do what he says because he follows orders, and also he, you know, even though he says he doesn't like hate Sam, I'm sure he would fight Sam in a heartbeat if he got the opportunity. Even like Loki and the Hulk are kind of cool. So we've got this character, General Ross, who is going to be in charge again in some capacity, or is going to be a main player in the MCU again, except he has no allies anymore. Everybody hates him. So for that reason, he has gone from like a character I didn't think about at all to what might be one of the like defining villains of Phase 5 and 6 is this General Ross, Red Hulk, Thunderbolt, whatever. Like this character who has all kinds of history with the main Avengers, almost all of it negative, and is about to get all of the power of the most powerful Avenger. So I don't know. I kind of find that fascinating. I think it's fascinating because like he wouldn't have made my top 15 villains, like expected villains of Phase 5 and 6. Because obviously we're all thinking it's like Kang, it's Doom, it's Namor to some extent, although he's not really like a villain. It's the leader. And those guys are obviously all important, but like General Ross might be really bad. He might be a big problem. And because they decided to cast Harrison Ford in that role, I'm inclined to believe he's going to be a big deal. And I think that's pretty cool. Like, I wonder with the Thunderbolts now, especially given the current state of Abomination, if General Ross will be the bad guy. Like, I expected he will lead the team, but now I'm like, maybe he gets Red Hulk powers, and the Thunderbolts' job is to stop him. And that's why they're called the Thunderbolts. Is like it's Operation Thunderbolt, the operation to like the plan to stop General Ross. So I don't know. I think it's neat.